Okay, where we last left was we had created the Honda project. So now when we launch Premiere Pro again, we select that and it will open it. Okay, this is where we last left it in our project window down here. Again, if your windows don't look like this window, you can always go to the window menu, go to workspaces, and make sure you're on editing, or the other things to reset to saved layout. This will kind of like refresh it and put it that way. We're going to learn how to move things around, and if your windows all of a sudden start changing and losing certain things, you lose certain windows, it's good to know that you can reset it to this default setting. Okay, again, it's Windows, Workspaces, say reset to save layout. Okay, well, and we're in editing, so don't change that. As you can see up here, there are also categories up here, shortcuts. You can go to all panels, and you can go to assembly, and these change things dramatically. So if you're somewhere in any of these things up here, go back to editing, because that's what we're learning how to do. We'll learn some of these other things in future tutorials. All right. So now back again down to the Honda project here. I have a folder called Honda Clips, which has the 14 clips in them. In this list mode of showing things is not very useful because they all just have numbers and I have no idea what they mean. I can change that and put description on, but for now, there's an easier, better way of working with this. Close that triangle. Now, if I were to double click on the icon of the folder itself, double click, it will launch its own window. So that's the beauty about putting things into folders or bins. I'll keep calling them folders because they look like folders, even though the project calls them bins. So now I have a free floating window. The beauty of this is that I can change this view of this specific window into icon mode. And now I can see all my clips of my motorcycles, which is a much better thing than just having the numbers. All right, so there they are. I got different clips, and if you hover your mouse over it, you can get a little preview of what those clips are. And actually, if you click on any one of them, it turns it light gray, and hit the space bar, it actually will play the little movie in that window, which is pretty neat. Okay, so now these are all nice things, and you can change the size of them. You make them bigger, you can make them smaller, and the beauty also, because this is a window, you can change the size of the window. If you hover your mouse in the lower right corner, you get this diagonal, and you can drag it out, push it in, reshape it, reform it, do anything you want. Okay? So now, the problem with this, though, it's floating on top of the whole workspace, which can be cumbersome because now you're always hiding something. So rather than do that, we're going to put this window and embed it into our workspace. Okay? And to do that, the easiest way to remember how to do this is to now I'm dragging it by the top bar here, the white one, and that moves it around. If I hover my mouse over any edges, I can, on the right edge, I can expand it. I can make it taller or shorter. Okay, so I can reshape it. But for now, still, it's on top of the other windows. So to embed it into the workspace, which is the bigger picture here, is I'm going to literally grab it by the word bin. I know there's no handle there, but when I click on that and move it over to the left window here, notice that I get this purple window that pops open. There's a top bar, there's even a left bar, a right bar, and a bottom bar of this, or the middle bar. So here's the trick. I wanted to go and touch the left vertical bar. You can see how it turns purple? Wrong, right. Wrong, wrong, right. Okay, so when it turns that left vertical bar purple, I let go, and it situates itself into the left of that source window. So now what I had before were two big windows. Now I have two medium-sized windows and one large one. So now, before I get going, I'm going to hover my mouse over the black line between the middle two windows, or the two right windows, hold my mouse button down, drag to the right, and so now I want 3 roughly equal size windows across the top here. And that works really well, okay? So that's a nice little feature to have. Now, I want this so that I don't want to have to scroll and see what's there. So I want to make, how do I make this a little smaller? Okay, so I want just a little bit more room down here. So what I'm going to do, and notice I hover my mouse over the middle horizontal black line, hold my mouse down, pull it down, and now I've kind of dropped the whole waistline down a little bit, okay? So I want 3 across on the left, and you can do this by changing this. Oh, there's 4. Oh, I see. I could have 4 across. Maybe that's the key. Okay, here's the trick. See if you can do this. Drag it so you have 4 little windows across, and then I'm going to bring the waistline back up there so nothing's hidden, and I'm going to just move this over to the right just a little bit more, so now they're a little more equal. Good. Okay, that's actually better. So now I can see all my 14 clips, and notice that the numbering is Honda 1, 10, 11. Okay, that's a computer thing. I should name this 01, but then here's 4, 5. So to sort this window here on the left so that they are all maybe numerically correct, there is a little icon here. It says sort icons. I click on that, and let's see. Let me try name, and there it is, name. And now I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's just right here, sort icons, and I chose name. Okay? So there we go. All right, now the next step I'm going to do is that when I hover over like this Honda 1, it's hard to tell what this clip is until I hover over here. Oh, I see. Now, here's another way of doing this. If I were to double click on this Honda 1 clip on the window with my mouse, it will load it into what's called the source window. And there it is. I double click number 2, that goes in. Anyone I double click will load in, all right? Okay, so let's put number 1 in first. And I can see by dragging this little blue playhead down here, looks like a little home plate icon. I click on it and just drag it all the way to the right. It will show me that there are actually 2 takes of this shot, and then there's a little bit of a close-up here. Okay, so I got, and I can stop at any point. And the beauty of this non-linear digital editing, which this is, I can click anywhere. It will just jump to it. You don't have to drag it to get to a point. If you know it's near the end, just click on it. It'll get there, and then you can still fine-tune it once you get there. So let's just say, for now, I'll pick this frame, and now I know what's there. That is a much more representative frame than the one here on the thumbnail from this, because I can't tell what that is. So I want to update. This is the default, and I want to update that. So I'm going to click and drag it roughly to there, and then I'm going to hit Command P. Now when I click something else, that stays there until I hover again. What would be very useful is to go through each of these clips, find a representative frame, and go Command P. Make sure you click on it first. Make sure you can move the little playhead. And it doesn't really matter which frame you're just getting. So it's one way to go through and figure out what's where and what kind of shot it is. So the next thing we have is the fact that there's no sequence. So to just get going, I double click Honda 1, load it into the frame. I'm going to move it till the license plate is roughly about the center of the picture. I'll mark an in point. The letter I on your keyboard is a button that creates an in point. Now, that means to save that frame location, I'm going to drag all the way down till I get to the end and see the front tire. I'm going to mark an O for an out point. And now notice that on this there is a selection, in point and an out point. And the section between it is lightly grayed. And you can tell the difference between in mark and out point. Here's the in bracket, and here's the out bracket. It's on this timeline. The numbers in this window represent, on the left side, the blue one, is the frame on which you're looking at the current position, where the playhead is. Files start at 44 seconds and 28 frames. It's hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. In this case, we're working at 30 frames per second, so when it goes to 29, the next frame over, it goes back to 0. There it is, 0. The number on the right, the white number here, if there is an in and out mark, gives you a duration. It's 10 seconds and 21 frames. It's not critical exactly that yours matched mine, but it just gives an indication what it is. So now, to create a sequence, it says drop media here to create a sequence. So in this case, I will literally, with my mouse, click on the middle of the picture, hold it down the button, first mouse button, drag it down, just let go anywhere down here on the timeline. I normally do not recommend dragging and dropping things on the timeline, mainly because it's not very accurate. But for this first one, it's a good way to get started. And what that does automatically, as you can see here, is that it creates a timeline, I should say, because there's no sequence yet. It's just this one shot. And only the 10 seconds and 21 frames I dropped in are present. So now, as you notice, when I move this with my mouse, the playhead here, it's the same thing as in this window on the right, which is the program window. So I can move it here and watch on my timeline. It moves accordingly. So what this comes down to is that this image here is the same thing as this graphical timeline. They are one and the same. Whereas this window in the middle is a source window, and that has multiple functions. And then here are the source clips in here on the left side. So now, if you take a closer look at this timeline, the default is to give you 3 V layers. Each of these are considered tracks. They're layers, however you want to call them. And it's V3, V2, V1, standing for video. A1, A2, A3, and the master track represents the audio files. Now again, these clips with the Honda motorcycles show that they do have an audio track, but there is no audio on it, so they are silent. And I hit to play this from the beginning, I hit the space bar, and notice here on the sound meter, nothing is going because there is no sound. But it thinks there is and no sound is still considered sound. So here we go. We have V1A1. The video and audio are separate. Now, once we create this sequence, notice that here in the project bin, there is this Honda 1 and with a funny icon, which looks like it has 3 little stacks of layers and a playhead through it, a pin through it, which is the playhead. This is our first sequence called Honda 1 because we happen to drag Honda 1, the clip, to the sequence. We will rename this correctly by clicking on the Honda 1 text and call this I'll use lowercase, Honda underscore cut 1 underscore last name. Now when you hit the return button, it accepts that, and now you look up here on the tab top left corner of the timeline, it updates that. Say this sequence is now called Honda Cut 1. Because this is a cut, I will drag by the icon and throw it to my cuts bin, keeping everything nice and tidy.